Welcome back to Lighting Rod. We have another episode today. Anyone who supported us yesterday, watching the 3 hour long portfolio review, thank you so much. I was exhausted yesterday. Each content of it will be released progressively for the next couple of days. So if you don't have time to watch the 3 hours, be aware we'll be releasing one person's review every day for the next week for you to watch and learn. Today we have Bora visiting us online here from Turkey, I believe. He can correct me if I remember wrong or correctly. There's so many people I booked in today. So we're going to talk a little bit Bora. Bora is an environment artist, level design and a lighting artist. He's done a couple of projects up until now. He has to often juggle multiple roles. And the reason I invited him is to put some more focus onto that. Lighting is not just for lighting artists. It's also for environment artists. It's also for level designers. So it's important to learn it, especially if you work for small companies or if you do some outsourcing or contract work for studios like Liartes or Decogon. Often you'll be the person who often have to do the lighting as well. So let's welcome Bora into the conversation and learn a little bit more about him. Hey Bora.
Hi, how are you, Amit?
I'm all right. So Bora, probably not everyone knows about you, so why don't we start very slowly and warm up a little bit and talk a little bit about, when you started your education, how you got into the game industry by accident, I think you kind of mentioned. So, just talk freely and I will stop you if we're talking too much.
Okay, no problem. No, you're not talking too much. And so I'm Bora. I'm from Istanbul, Turkey, and as you are right, and I'm 30 years old. So since my childhood, I was kind of exhausted. I'm really, tempted about drawing some paintings that I see in some movie or in the nature walk or something like that. But I knew that one day I will create my environments. That was my biggest dream in my childhood. So I in university I graduated from architectural department, and that was also kind of creating some environment, but that was not the style of me. That wasn't how I want to create some environments. That because it was kind of more technical job rather than artistic, I guess, I believe. So in after I graduated from university, I worked in architectural industry as making some visualization for projects for 2 years. Then I joined some kind of workshop, let's say, in a university that was lots of people, sharing what they are doing about individually in about gaming industry. They were like, I was making some concepts for just myself, to for as a hobby, let's say. And then they say they will get investments soon, and they asked me if I can, join the team. So I would. That was the biggest yes of my life, because that was my dream since my childhood, as I told you. And in 2016, my journey begins in gaming industry, let's say. So since 2016, I'm working like so 6 years. Yeah, I'm in the industry. I take part in couple of games so far. So mostly summarize of myself.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, uh, um, so bear with us, people. Obviously, he's from Turkey, and obviously English is not his first language, so that's why we're taking a bit slow and steady, to make sure he's comfortable. So don't worry about that, Bora.
Okay.
Um, so for the so you had different roles. Let's talk a little bit about your different roles that you have learned. So you learned concept art. I'm going to just quickly show people. You don't have to
Okay.
explain anything. I'm just going to quickly show them
Okay.
some of your stuff. So he has done a couple of concept art. So when he talks about concept art, this is the level of concept art he started out with when he did concept art in the beginning. So Bora, do you still do concept art, or have you put it behind you?
I think it's right now it's my behind of me since I don't have enough time to do that, and I get more professionalized about level and lighting in last year. So I think it was my starting point.
Okay. So, how did concept art help you get started, and how did that help you learn and transition over to 3D?
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about. Let's brainstorm. Let's reflect a little bit about that journey you've had with that beginning.
Okay. Actually, in my first concepts that I was doing by myself, I wasn't happy about it. There was something always wrong. That when I check, good artists in the worldwide, and I was not happy with my works. So I understand the lighting was wrong in my concepts. That was the biggest, mistake in my concepts in my past works. I think then I check how the light works in the real life or in movies or in games. So I start to understand the nature of light, how it behaves. That was a good experience for me, drawing the light by your hand. So I think that's, at that time I wasn't aware that it will help my lighting skills in 3D environments. But it helped. It seems.
That makes sense. So, when you're doing concept art, so you're saying part of your challenges was to improve the values of your paintings, the lighting, the form, and everything. Obviously, you're very skilled in concept art too, and you
Thank
put
you.
that behind you as well. So, how has concept art helped you? Do you feel sometimes that you had an easier time picking up lighting for games because you've done concept art, or what are your thoughts on that?
In concepts, the camera is stabilized, so you just have one angle and you paint there. And if rotate the camera, there's totally different feeling. I think it's the biggest difference between concepts and you know and the gaming industry, because you don't have stabilized camera, you can move anywhere. So that's everything everywhere looks in the same quality. Of course, there some parts should be more dramatic or more you know uh, better looking, but you should in lighting in gaming industry has several things that you should be aware of. It's not the good looking is not enough in gaming industry. uh, I mean, in the 3D environments. So I think that's the biggest difference. The camera angle is not stable in games.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, when you say it's not enough that it's good enough. What do you mean when you say that?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
When you say something that it's not enough that the environmental lighting is just looks good, what do you mean? What do you think? What else do someone need to
Ah,
focus
okay,
on?
okay. Because our biggest problem in when we create the game is FPS. That because optimization, I think one of the most important thing in the gaming production. Because if you can't make the players play the game, nothing else is matters. So that's the biggest challenge to creating a lighting with optimization, and also every game style in every kind of genre is different, requires different lighting scenario. Because for example, in FPS games, you should be sure that most of places looks you know well lighted. Every players should see them in each corner or something like that. We were care about this situation. But if you make some kind of uh, single player scenario based game, the lighting should be show the directions. You know each gaming genre has different lighting scenarios. So that's what I meant. Looking good is not enough when you creating a 3D environment with lighting.
So which type of game genre and environment are you mostly used to lighting?
Uh, so far, I worked in FPS game and story-based story-based single-player game. So I experienced in different two game. I my approach to lighting was different. As I told you before, in FPS game, the players always want to see each other. They don't like the dark areas that they always complain about it. That we should see each other. I can't see the my components. Uh, so they are complaining about there. So I try to make the every areas well lighted. But in single player game, story-based single player game, I was mostly focused on the light, using the lighting as a some directional. It was showing the direction of the game. It was showing the players that you should go there or you shouldn't go there,
Okay.
something like
S-
that.
So when you do so is it mostly single player or multiplayer you have experience with?
Actually, 2 years in single player, 2 years in multiplayer. I
So what's the difference when you've been working in these two different uh, type of game modes? What would you say is the key difference and challenges?
Okay. I think single player game. It's it's more. I was focusing on the mood. So, for example, if I create some cyberpunk scene, I was start to listening cyberpunk music, in the background, so to get in the mood. Or if I make some kind of, let's say steampunk game, I haven't worked in steampunk game, but I try to get in the mood. So I also look references, and that's one of the most important thing to get the mood. Take the player in that mood. But in multiplayer game, of course, mood is always important. But since it's kind of competitive game, there are other dynamics working on. As I told you, there was no any advantage to any player. So our main goal that there was no any advantage to any player in the level. So every lighting, it's getting more homogeneous in that scenario. But in single player, you don't have to worry about it. I think it's the biggest difference
Hmm.
as a technical part of my job.
Okay, so what part of your job is the most technical?
uh, I think every part has different technical challenges in, because
Mm.
as I told you, I worked in, I don't know, maybe I didn't tell you, I worked in small teams. So I was responsible for several things. So you know creating the concept, modeling, and also creating the level in the Unreal Engine, and also lighting. So I think every steps has different, different technical challenges. But
Mm, mm.
I think modeling is more, maybe, or no, its level is also some kind of technical things that you should be careful. I think, yeah, every part of this production pipeline has different. I think 50% artistic for 50% technical. Let's say.
So because some projects you have done the concept art, the modeling, the environment, the level design, and lighting, you've been the one person who's responsible for half of the pipeline, artistically and technically speaking. What are the things you think about from the start
Okay.
because you have the different skill set? What are the things you think about from start that you are more aware of because you have different skill set, right? What are the things you know?
Okay.
I have to avoid this because when I do lighting, if this isn't modeled correctly or if this doesn't have the correct materials, I'm gonna have
Okay.
trouble lighting. What are these things you are able to think about and plan for, which a lot of people obviously don't, because normally people are just environment artists, just a level design, just a
Okay.
lighting artist, and then they had three, four people who have to talk to each other and say, "Hey, the materials are wrong. Hey, there's something wrong with the
Okay.
PBR values." What is your advantage when you are the one doing all of it?
Yeah, I think there are lots of advantages that I feel in the pipeline, because if there is some problem, depending on the model or depending on any other thing, I can say, to the model that you should, w- open the light maps wrongly. So you should do like that. And they say, okay, then I solve the problem. And sometimes, there's when my in some levels I only take part as lighting, but there was some, r- problems in the level that, since I know, have skills in light level design as well, I can say, I can show some, maybe we should do in this way, so optimization will be better. Or, sometimes, lots of we have sometimes, having problem with draw calls, and I can, recommend we should do this, merge assets, and I mean, merge small assets into one piece that, it will be more reduced to draw call. So we will get more FPS in the game. So I think, since I take, in each role in the pipeline, it gives me the more, understanding that what the problem may be caused of, from which, you know which which, step in the pipeline. That's more easy to define, for me,
Hmm,
you know
that's a very good. So, because normally when I do work, right, I mostly specialize at the moment anyway as a lighting artist, which means
okay.
if I can avoid it, I want the other person who did something to fix the materials or the 3D model, right?
Yeah.
But I still need to understand it to spot there is a problem, to understand there is a problem, and then direct the other person that, hey, thank you for doing it, but there are some issues with the normals of your models, or there is some normal texture issues, or there is some ambient occlusion issues. There's so many ways things can go wrong, and I personally obviously prefer to have the one person to do it. How do you feel that when you are the person who does it, are there less issues because you did it, or do you often do something and when you reach the end and you go, oh shit, this didn't work, or I made a mistake, or the albedo is too dark or too bright, I need to go back and fix it? Do you often experience that, or is it painless because you are the person who is in charge of it?
I think it's, as I told you, since I know, most of, every steps in the pipeline, that's good that, for example, I can create, myself an environment from beginning to end, so that gives me an, opportunity to, you know solve the problems, uh, less painless, let's say. Of course, there are always annoying thing, because of, previous steps, that if it affects your process. Of course, if it was kind of annoying sometimes, since we are always, fighting with deadlines, that's, if sometimes it's not happening because of your, mistake, you tell the other artist and they fix, and you take back and you relight, or you redesign in the level. It sometimes, can be, painful for us, since we are fighting with deadlines. But sometimes, for example, when I see some mistake in the model, I just, maybe fix myself and doesn't tell the artist, for the fastest way. And Yeah, that's like that, I guess.
Hmm. So I'm gonna ask a question that Le Bibliothécaire asked. Dude, I forgot your name all the time. I know I asked it before, but I really
Bora.
forgot your not your, but the
Okay,
person asking the question. He's a very loyal viewer, but he keeps
okay,
telling me he's on Discord too, and
okay,
I like to recognize my viewers and say hello, but
okay.
it's not very nice that I keep forgetting their name. But he's asking between those two game genres that you work on. So he's referring to multiplayer and single player. Which one do you enjoy working on the most?
For working, I enjoy single player games. I think it's more take me in the mood, but for I myself playing game, I prefer more multiplayer games.
Hmm.
But working, I prefer single player games.
Why do you prefer single player games?
Because I don't know, I like
Less
to,
optimization, maybe.
yeah, less optimization, but more feeling more, emotionally. I because in single player games, every game has some kind of feeling inside that I like to be part of that, feeling that to create the mood and create the everything. I think, yeah, I think more single player games I like to be part of in the production
Hmm.
because of that reason.
I think, generally speaking, would you say also when you do single player? I agree, but in single player for me as well, as you said, in multiplayer, players complain a lot if it's too dark, like if it's too moody or you're trying to
Yeah,
build too much. But in single player, you obviously have more option to add a little bit of contrast, little bit of
yeah,
mood, a little bit of drama, and from my experience, most lighting artists they enjoy a little bit of drama. You know, they enjoy a little bit
yeah.
of darkness and lighting to things. Are you the same? Do you have a preference on what type of environment, genre, theme, and mood you like? For example, do you prefer medieval, like the one you did for the artist? Do you prefer sci-fi? Do you prefer dark or moody or bright? What's your preference?
I think that depends on my mood. In my first years, I was more tempted about medieval or some kind of fantasy environments, but right now I also enjoy, creating sci-fi or more futuristic levels as well. But I think I mostly enjoy creating some fantasy levels or medieval levels more
Mm.
than sci-fi or futuristic or more realistic concepts.
Mm. Okay. So we forgot to mention, but we'll mention it now. You obviously have architectural study background, so you studied a bit of architecture, correct?
Yeah,
How long did you study that?
4 years
4
and
years. Okay.
2 years master degree, but I quit the master degree because of my work. I had to have some. I didn't have time to write my thesis, so since I was working a lot in my first game,
Yeah.
so I couldn't finish my master degree.
So what's interesting is how did you study? Because I have a strong belief that a lot of other studies, such as architecture, benefits an environment artist. It benefits even a lighting artist. It benefits especially a level designer. How has you studying architecture? Do you think have you reflected over it that it has given you an advantage or a better understanding the other fellow artists because you studied architecture for 4 years?
I think yes, because in architectural department we are studying with real buildings. The we are the our we are getting educated to create real buildings. So I know, for example, let's say window details, how they are should be modeled in to look more realistic, or how the scales should be, the doors scales, dimensions, how they should be to looks more real, or how materials should be act in the level. I think, yeah, for especially realistic or futuristic or sci-fi games or environments, I think it really helped to make me understand the scales of the props or objects or the total scene. Of course, there are differences between these two professions, but I can't say it helped me to you know take me in advantage, you know, as an architect, let's say.
Hmm. So when you do your projects, do you have a reason for big windows, small windows? When you do any modeling for an environment before you light it, is there a thought process, an idea that you go through, or is it more visual reason for it?
I think in my early years in gaming industry, I wasn't thinking the lighting how it will be, work if I create the window like that. If I would put window here or there, I wasn't thinking about it because I wasn't that how to say, let's say, more, less professional since comparing right now. So I wasn't thinking about it. It was kind of uh, more random at that times. But right now, yes, I'm thinking if I put some window here, I can get some good daylight to in the you know environment that I can make some good light bounces or uh, right now I'm thinking when creating the level, I'm also thinking the light in the same time.
Hmm. Okay, so let's see if you remember. You don't have to. If you don't remember, that's fine. So
Okay.
I guess let's start with this one. What did you? What were your challenges with this environment? What did you learn? Uh, and what were the challenges for this specific environment? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember. I think uh, in that project, it was I learned, creating an environment with some matte painting, how it would be, uh, because sometimes when you make some outer environment, like some kind of big world, and you make some small world into a big world, it's kind of hard to show that they're in the same world. You don't you understand what I mean? So they should be the same lighting feeling or more they should be looking the same world. So I think in this environment my biggest challenge was that.
Okay.
And here it was kind of but in these pictures my I was having problem with we were aimed to get some moody environment, but in the same time everything should be visible in the level. They asked me to create some kind of mood like that, and it should be looking moody and showing the player it should find something here. So
Hmm.
it was kind of story based. It's from the story based game. So I think that's one of my first challenge to create a game level.
Okay. Um. Think my internet is slowing down. What about this environment? What did you learn here, and what were the challenges, and also what was the purpose, the story, and how did you lead the player here?
In here, we were trying to create some environment which should be uh, it was also depending on the scenario, and we were trying to create some kind of level should looking moody and in the same time kind of creepy that the players should be kind of nervous when you're walking in the streets, and that I was trying to create some kind of feeling like that. And I think in this one I learned how to use some post-process things into level, but they are like when I look right now, there are lots of problems that I can see. It was my early times.
Okay, that makes sense. And this is the different. This is for the VR. So, what are the challenges when you were doing it for the VR?
Uh, and we are, I think, it's the biggest problem is motion sickness. We are having problem with motion sickness. That because when you move, you can't adapt. Your brain can adapt the movements. So you should be, point and click movements in the game. So it was not working like as a console or PC games. And I think the biggest challenge is creating a feeling without getting motion sickness. And also, FPS is worse in VR as well. You should get try to get more FPS to make a VR game. I think there are two big challenge for the VR.
All right. VR is definitely a bit challenging when it comes to optimization. So
Yeah,
obviously, from this stage, you had left concept art. You're using your skills from concept art. Obviously, when you do concept art, you also have a trained eye in certain areas, and you're incorporating it in your 3D environment and a little bit in lighting. So you started with some personal projects. What's the purpose behind some of the projects you were doing back then?
it was kind of I was on vacation and I want to create some environment like that. I think lighting is not good here in this one. I don't like, but it was kind of since I was in vacation and I was playing with some modules and some I like creating fantasy levels, as I told you. It was one of my first experiences creating an environment by myself. So I think there are lots of problems in this one, but uh,
Okay, that
I,
makes sense. So when you're doing all of this, you're obviously trying different things because I can see the timeline here. Um, I'm also noticing a lot of the work you were doing a certain time span was very dark environments, very contrasty as well.
yeah,
Um, is that because you were into that kind of mood at the time, or was that because the projects you were getting were about that? Is there a reason behind it, or and it's also all very sci-fi? I also noticed all of them were sci-fi for a period of time.
yeah. It was because of I was working in a game. Uh, I was working in this game, and if I answer your question, it's because of both. I like contrast and moody levels. So I was kind of, responsible for the creating level. So I, gave something that I like, I think. But they were also, expecting some kind of moody sci-fi environments. So since I like that, I can say because of both of it.
So, uh, what were the challenges here, and what was the purpose behind this environment? Again, you were the lead environment design, level design, and lighting. So you're obviously doing a lot over the few years. You've been doing a lot of work in different areas. Um, so you are obviously the one who is able to think ahead now, right? Because you're doing the
Yeah.
concept art, you're doing the environment design, you're thinking about level design, and then you're doing lighting. So you have a huge advantage that you are the one responsible. Basically, you can think, okay, if I model like this, the light's gonna come like this, and this
Yeah.
is the story. So, what was the intention here, and what and the purpose, the challenges, the learning?
Um, like I will repeat myself. It will be I think the challenging with in every step. I think it's like learning to, for example, there is something wrong that you can't define, but when you take part in every step, you can think about what should be how it's not working like that. So we are thinking and finding a solution. So it's not sometimes not easy to find. Sometimes there are some compile errors, or you just don't have enough RAM in your computer. If there's nothing wrong with the model or the level or lighting, it's maybe sometimes becomes you don't have enough space in your computer or something like that. We face, for example, I remember one time I was trying to find a solution till morning. I was haven't sleep that night because we had some deadline. So I just figure out next day I don't have enough space to compute the light in the last stage. And yeah, it's
Makes
when
sense.
you're responsible with everything. You I think the biggest thing that you learn is uh, you are kind of becoming a solving artist. You try to find some solutions. For example, if we can't find solve that specific situation, i I can think that we can maybe do in this way. I think it will work. Maybe we lose some quality, but it works. So it's since we have not enough time to finish when we are fighting with deadlines. Sometimes we find some kind of solutions like that.
Hmm. Makes sense. So obviously you have had different experience and different tasks. So for example, here you have a village patch you did for the artist studios, and it says here you were responsible for level design and cinematic. Does that mean someone else modeled it and then you had to put it together and put the environment and the placement or everything? Is that correct understanding?
Yeah, that's correct.
So how do you go on about that? Because you're doing the levels and cinematic. Does that mean someone else did the lighting as well?
In this project, yeah, someone else did the lighting. I didn't have that much time, so we worked another lighting artist
So
in
do
that
you work
project.
with someone else, or do you just do the level design and cinema, and then you just give it, and then you have to hope they do the lighting according to what you
Uh,
thought about?
I get the models, for example, and I create the level and make the cinematic. But lighting is made by another artist in that level. I
Hmm.
just make the level and create cinematic sequences depending on the some cameras in the scene that I liked.
Hmm. And the
Yeah.
process, though, you do the cinematic obviously after the lighting is done, or do you do it before?
Actually, they were working together most of the times. We try to, in every project, you're not working like, it comes. Of course, sometimes there are some dependings on when you, for example, if the step haven't done, you can't start that step. But we I all, mostly I try to find some solutions that every steps can work together. For example, I arrange cameras and set the dressing for that specific camera, and I can send the lighting artist, and he can work or she can work in that specific camera. So we can work together. We can improve the project together. So I think it's more time consuming.
Hmm.
um,
Okay. Obviously, you have a lot of different work. You have different village packages. You've done a lot of work for the artist studios. Um, is there a different experience when you work for like asset studios or outsourcing studios like the artist versus a game company versus freelancing? What's your experience when it comes to those things?
I worked in two different games so far, and Latte Studios. So in Latte Studios, I have find uh, lots of different environments, since you know the company's main aim to create contents for Unreal Engine Marketplace, and I have find you know chance to work in different level, team levels. So
Cool.
that was that was nice. That because sometimes when you work in a one specific project in lots of years, you are getting more enthusiastic to work in another how to say concept or maybe another kind of feeling in the game. But in lattice I'm happy that I can have chance to create different levels that makes me refresh every time.
Right. So obviously you did some work from the artist studios, and then eventually in between or afterwards you also did the sabotage game as well. Um, so going from doing a lot of other projects and the Leata Studios over to Sabotage, what were the difference in the work process and the task? Having to work more alone, doing more of the roles alone, and then going into a smaller studio who was working on a specific game and a title. Is there a clear learning curve for you? Was there like, okay, now I need to do a different workflow, or now I need to adjust to new type of processes, or did you just replicate the way you did things all year before as well?
It changes because main goal is there's always some specific main goals in different projects. So I think the of course you use your skills, you use your background, you use your artistic or technical skills in every project, but you are shaping into that specific project depending on the main goal. So I think each experience has unique unique learning curves, I say.
Right, that makes sense. So, what did you think you learned during your time working on the Sabotage game? Obviously, it's very different. It's less sci-fi. It's not even the village in the medieval age. It's a different type of environment, more realistic, more current type of time zone or like era or year.
Yeah.
Does that impact your decision on what you're doing and how you approach cinematic and lighting, or is it still the same approach?
uh, I think it's quite different because as we talked before, our main goal was that there should be no dark areas in the level. There should be not so much contrast. I think the main goal was people can compete each other with any advantage or disadvantage. That was the main goal. So especially in lighting, I should be always carrying this idea that there will be no advantage or disadvantage to any player. And also mostly I think multiplayer players mostly want lighting is should be not moody. They should be they can see everything really clearly. So that for the lighting stage, that was the biggest challenge for me. And other thing, since I was also level design for that game, we were also fighting with optimization. So since lots of player will get into same level, uh, you know everything should be really optimized. Otherwise, if there's some FPS problems, uh, it's everything else is not getting so important because if a player gets some FPS problem, uh, it's the how good looking the environment is getting into second plan. So that was seeing everywhere clearly and making a really optimized level is biggest challenge for that MMOFPS games. Not just specifically this game, but in every MMOFPS games, I think I think I don't know, but that would be one of the biggest challenge for the level or lighting artist.
Right. So, if you were to give some advice for artists, be it an environment artist trying to learn lighting, be it a level designer who maybe should learn lighting, or even a lighting artist trying to learn lighting, what are some of the advices you would pass on from all the years you've been doing all of these different roles? Or even a cinematic artist for that matter, too.
Okay. Firstly, I think you should understand the main goal, because you can create some really good looking environment, but what they're expecting from you is not that. Uh, it's not working for them. So you should relighting and try to get the lighting in the second time. So I think the biggest thing is really, because I was kind of stubborn in my early years, that I was trying to create the level or lighting in my mind. I wasn't listening that well what they are really expecting. I think the most important thing is understanding the main goal or what they're expecting from you. And the second thing is, I think watching movies or playing games should, but of course you should be playing as not just playing. You should be looking the how the light works, how they create the environment, or how they light the environment, depending on different genres. With different eye, you should be watch movies, you should be play the games. Then you find your mistakes that I was doing in that way, and but I think I should maybe try like this, or maybe I can improve myself like that. It's educate your eye. I become more keen on details, or I think that's would be my two advice. Of course, there are lots of things, but for as I can generalize in the first stage, I could say this too.
Okay. And these environments, generally speaking, what is the average time it takes you to go from concept to modeling to environment to level design to lighting? How long do you spend as one person doing it?
It really depends on the the environment or level, because sometimes you're not like starting something and you just working on that to finish. It always comes another things into that pipeline, and you stop the production working on another thing, and you re back to work on that specific level. So it's really hard to say how would it take from beginning to end, because there are lots of different parameters when you create levels. So I can't say any specific time.
Hmm. So, how long do you spend on each task, generally speaking? Say this environment, for example, how much would you have spent setting up the scene setup? I'm guessing scene setup refers to level design or something.
Yeah, I think it was. I was more free on working on that specific project, and it's, I think, maybe 1 week or 4 days or something, 3 days from beginning to end, I guess.
Okay. And what's your approach? Like, how do you decide when you do your lighting, for example? What's your process? Like, what's your workflow? Do you turn on the fog from the beginning, the atmosphere, and then you place the lights? Do you do it after you've done all the lighting? Like, what's your order of,
Okay.
workflow?
In the first place, I try to understand what they're expecting from me, and then I looking for references that define the mood, and I showing them. So they say I want like this, but not in this way, like in this way. So I'm getting be sure that we are on the same page. So I start arranging the camera, and then making a set dressing, and then putting some lights to get some moods, and then improving in every step, and showing them, you know, getting their thoughts or critics in a good way, or or in a bad way, because sometimes when you spend so much time in a scene, you can't see your mistakes, or your uh, how to improve your scene. So the second eye is always really good option. You can ask, you don't have to ask any other lighting artist or any other environment artist. You can just ask a, developer, or on another, character artist, because everybody sees something in the scene. So after that, getting that their opinions in my specific level, I improve in that way or not in that way, because sometimes they can uh, say some things that's not that correct. They sometimes uh, doesn't show you the right way to make your level better. So you think that if I should do or not, I think improving afterwards, my, mostly pipeline is like that.
Okay. And eventually, after all of this stuff, you have been trying to experiment a little bit, I've noticed as well, on your own stuff. So, what's the purpose of your experiments at the moment?
uh, in my teenage days, I really liked isometric games. So I try to make some kind of, isometric experiment, that I how would it look. It was just, fun work in my free time. So personal work, that's, I don't know, I just getting the feeling that I should create something like that, and I just did. Doesn't have any specific reason.
Okay, that's fine. So when you're doing all of these and you've been doing things for now, it says environment, level, and lighting artist. If you had to pick one as your specialty,
Okay,
what would it be?
I think I like creating the level most. I like the creating the environment and level most, I think. So let's say level.
Hmm.
Level artist is more me.
So explain to the people who don't know what is a level artist and what do they normally do.
Level artist is how to say, it's responsible for creating a environmental level, depending on the, expectations from the game genre, or some specific game approach. It's getting 3D game ready models and putting into level and blending together, and creating a world depending on different parameters. I think most important thing is gameplay comes first. Gameplay, creating a level depending on a gameplay uh, is the most important thing, and other things are optimization and good looking environments.
Hmm.
So level art is mostly responsible for getting game ready assets from 3D modelers and putting into game engine and creating a uh, specific game level depending on the game's main goal,
Cool.
I can say.
All right. Um, we're reaching the end of our stream. If anyone has any questions that I haven't thought of, now will be a good time to ask them. Is there any question you have for someone who does environment, level design, lighting artist, cinematic, who's basically a one man team? Who started with concept art and then 3D design environment, and has worked on different projects, done worked on the artist studios as well, doing quite a few packages that probably a lot of people have downloaded and used as well. I know a couple of game studios who probably purchased these things and use them as well. And yeah, so Bora, is Unreal Engine your main software, or do you know any other besides 3D modeling softwares? Do you know other game engines as well? Are you
Uh,
equally good at lighting in, I don't know, 3D software?
I'm my main software is Unreal Engine. I used to study on Unity, but I don't know how to use Unity that well. So that's yeah, my main uh, program software is Unreal Engine.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that is good. Bora, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. Thank you
All
for
right.
inviting me here and having this nice conversation.
No problem, man. So I think we can start slowing down a little bit. I just want to point out for everyone watching, we have had a portfolio review recently. So go watch this. We had a 3 hour session yesterday. So, have a watch, see if you can learn anything from it. Um, Keep in mind, we do have at courses.com. Let me actually just show you guys what it is. Courses lightningbot.com. For anyone who doesn't know about it, um, it's probably a good idea to show you that as well. Um, we are doing a couple of things, obviously, and if you're interested in it, head over to course@lightningbot.com. We have an Unreal Lighting course. We focus on PBR, PBL workflow. So you get to do 4 different lighting scenarios. We teach you the fundamental, incorrect materials, correct materials, EV, light bleeding, volumetrics, post grading, post processing, color grading, emissive, how to do creative lighting, how to do time of days, how to do artistic lighting, how to analyze paintings to improve your lighting, how to see as a painter to improve your lighting, candle principle, Purkinje effect, game optimization, the danger of overusing fog, what happens with color when you use fog, testimonials. If you want to get some testimonials, I will be your main mentor. The co-author is Sander Vander Myron. He works at the Studio Gobo. He has done Forza, Hogwarts Legacy, so just be aware of that. A lot of content, so you can learn a lot. If you want some mentorship, you can pick between 2 months and 5 months. If you go for 5 months, there are a couple of pros. If you contact me directly, I will give you a special offer and also access to guest mentors for the same price. But that is if only if I think you're serious and committed. So you have Jeffy, he is a specialist in creative cinematography lighting, and you have Geoffrey who works at EA Dice such as Battlefield, Hyperscape, and Division, and he specializes on things like real time lighting, effects lighting, and he is quite good at the other things there as well. So just so you know that we do that as well. So be aware of that. Um, Let me see. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I'll show the screen here so you can see. So if you go here at the course.lightingbot, you'll have 5 months mentorship. You have 2 months mentorship. We just had a student graduate after 3 months. He got a job at Retro Studios. He had tried other mentorship and other courses and university with no success. So after doing a session with us, 3 months, done deal. He got trained in interview. He got trained in speaking. He got trained in how to deal with art test, how to do with interviews, and all these things. This course is has a couple of videos more to go, a couple of lighting fixtures and a couple of things I will make as well. But overall, have a look, testimonials, and so on. Just so you guys know. And if you're new to the channel, there's tons of interviews, right? Tons of interviews. Please go and look. There's always something to learn from people. And yeah, just so you guys know. If you have any feedback, let me know. And thank you again. There will be a new stream probably next week. I'm still looking for people. If you are interested in being on the stream, if you think you're relevant for the stream, as you see, you don't have to be a lighting artist. You could be a art director, you could be anything really. I'm really interested in anyone at this stage to kind of combine the understanding of color, value, and stuff. So if you're interested, please contact me, and I would love to have you on the stream. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and spread it around. And thank you, Bora, for joining as well. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Any final
Thank you.
words, Bora, before we run away? I will talk a little bit with Bora afterwards, and once I close the stream. So Bora, don't run away after we end. We still talk to you a
Okay.
little bit.
Okay.
So thank you, guys. Please say thank you to Bora. Obviously, his time is also valuable. His experience is very valuable.
Thank you.
Please follow Bora's art station. I'm pretty sure, Bora, your art station will have a lot of more followers because we kept showing it. So
Okay. Thank
don't
you.
panic about that. So thank you for your time, everyone. I will talk to Bora a little bit now, and yeah, see you again soon.